only allow him to put a doctor, an active physician. So, interesting educational process. And then, yeah, so, and then their financial statement for the month is $60 for a use variance application. So, this is it.
Yes. The Rosendale Water and Sewer Department took in $22,768.73. There was no May meeting because a quorum was not met. There's a new development in the water main work. Did you want to announce that? That the final approvals are in for the pipe crossing the Keeter Avenue Bridge. From the Department of Health. And so work can now commence. There's a little bit more procurement to do now that the approvals are in some of the parts to fill the contract.
We actually have something on the agenda for it. Change order.
Right, change order. And there's a start date or a start week?
They're hoping right after the 4th of July weekend this one, because they have to order the materials after we sign the contract tomorrow. If you don't get it to them tomorrow, and then they can order the materials. So they figure it's a few weeks to get that in. So that's the plan now.
So is there plan to fly on Main Street or somehow contact Main Street?
This is
I
it.
would.
I don't recall where we left off.
We left it as, when you see them working on Keeter Avenue.
I would be
I mean,
happy to help.
Yeah, I think
Help
that's
with
what-
something together.
Maybe is supposed to work with Jill to put something on the website and keep it. Yeah.
Right, under the
You
projects,
have to, Jill.
under the
Sorry.
projects
I
link.
think local businesses are taking it upon themselves
Yeah, the
to
chamber-
organize and disseminate information to everybody, and there's going to be a meeting soon. And now that we have.
Chris and I had
the
been to
date,
the chamber meeting and they had talked about it.
yeah, so it'll be collaboration.
All the residents.
Well, the chamber, and then I think the businesses themselves and the Economic Development Commission had something up their sleeves.
Right, but on the Rosendale Town website, right under the main heading is our links, and one of them is projects. And it was suggested at that kind of big meeting we had in April, that even if there were just a one-paragraph start week, just so that people can click on that and know when about the water main work is going to start.
And I get calls every day, so I'm sure there's going to keep calling me out after coming.
And probably some people, just everyone,
Yeah,
people who use Main Street to commute.
it's not, it was a few residents, but
Right.
Let's see, the planning board took in $1,109.18 in the month of May. There was a fair amount of business. Aerostar Petroleum of 11 something Route 32. I have their address, but it's the mobile station, and it's headquarters of Aerostar Petroleum. They are submitting a site plan review application post building construction. The permit was issued, the building was begun, a stop work order was placed upon the construction so that the new work and the site overall can meet site plan review approval. So the applicant and engineer came to last month's May meeting of the planning board with any information that they had developed. They got a lot of comments back, revisions were suggested, and they went off pledging to revise the plan and submit a revised site plan application with all those comments at least considered.
John, do you know if the county comments have been received yet? It's on the county road, I know if the county fire department's still around.
I don't think they've been received yet because I don't think the site plan is official yet. The application is complete yet. It was sort of a pre-app get a sense from the planning board of how far astray they are and what they need to do. And they were fully compliant and willing to meet the, you know, the requirements of the planning board. There is a Taylor Street, John Taylor lot line adjustment, pretty routine. A barbecue man, some might know from the farmer's market, Arkansas Tom, is proposing to park his food truck for some summer months hours on Route 32 near the across from Bill's Auto, adjacent to Billy Ligon's Ligon Insurance
Basically,
building.
just serve Billy Ligon lunch.
That's so badly.
It's sort of between the Ligon offices and that very quiet
Yeah.
single storage shed thing, it's a parking lot.
Yeah.
So he has a, they're developing an agreement with the property owner. He's got a relationship with the
We love
property
Arkansas
owner.
Tom.
So the planning board was very helpful in suggestions and how he might develop his,
Of course, Tara's looking for trucks for the pool,
right?
food trucks.
Oh, that would
Right.
work really well.
Huh?
That would work great.
Yeah.
Curbside
I'm
crew.
gonna move down the street a little bit.
Right, we don't have to walk up 32. I can't
That's
big
not the planning board. Pool. The pool is going along just fine as far as the pool goes. The diving platforms are in, if you've seen those, for the lap pool. The ADA compliant immersion chair on the opposite side, sort of in front of the bathhouse for handicapped accessibility, is in. The new sidewalk along the right side of the pool, the old kind of entry pathway, is mostly in, it seems. Later this week, right now they're working on a preparation for the second coat of paint. They were trying to get it done in one coat. If it was a great coat, that would be enough, but our engineers recommended let's do another coat, which will make the pool more durable for the long haul.
Skip.
Don't skimp, no holidays. The highway department is all set up to pave the pad where the old snack shack was, which made that parking lot irregular in shape because it had that cutout. Now that's, if you've been by there lately, it's all steamrolled down in preparation for paving, so it'll be one clean parking area there instead of broken up like it's been.
Nice place for crazy.
Yeah, that's right. Next will be, okay, after the paint purpose happens, the second coat of paint will happen, then topsoil, grading, then fencing, and meanwhile the pool will be filled. Once the topsoil is laid, get the dust out of the way, then the pool will be filled. And then immediately after the sod is laid, and then the sod is on kind of pretty strict watering schedule.
The sod's coming in tomorrow, actually.
Oh, so they'll keep it on the side until the
Well,
topsoil's
it's all
ready.
being, the delivery and stuff, but I just wanted to make an announcement that both Mark Massio and Victoria
All right.
Coyne are doing the sod and the planting for us, so that's really very generous of
Are
them.
they
they
editing?
donating?
At
labor
cost, I think,
and
it's at
cost.
cost of the materials, so,
Very generous.
very generous.
Victoria Gardens.
Victoria Gardens and Massio, what was that?
Landscaping,
Landscaping,
yeah.
yeah. And they called, Mark called me and said, we want to do something, and.
Yeah.
That's
that was-
Kelco Mercer as well.
Oh, yeah.
Very generous. The bathhouse is slightly delayed further in that there's just a lot of bureaucracy in getting that compliant.
Well, one of the things we had to do was environmental testing.
Right, and that's to happen,
It's not being done,
tomorrow?
this week.
yeah, with Alpine, I think it is, who does the full lead and asbestos test of the building, so.
After that.
Then there's a review of that, so
Then it'll
each
go
kind
out
of
to
item
bid.
delays
Then
it.
it has to go out to bid.
And then we
Right.
go after bid after.
So I wouldn't expect the bathhouse this summer for the pool season, unless we get lucky.
That's not what he says, but we'll
Okay.
see. Halfway through the season.
Maybe I spoke too soon. And instead, we'll use the building to the right of the bathhouse for lifeguard
Yep.
kind of headquarters and covered building. And then have porta potties and hand and foot washing stations. And there's the rec center for, if need be, those bathrooms are open. Bookkeeping review, everything is on track, and though our bookkeeper is heavily loaded at this point because she's transitioning from having Doris there, a 34-year veteran on staff, and it's not there anymore, so Kim's workload is pretty substantial.
Doris helping one, she's helping.
Doris helps once
one
a
day
week.
yeah.
One power day. As you have spoken before, the time cards are getting
Switch,
commissioned now, so that it's, that'll really speed up payroll, and so the bookkeeper's workload will be reduced somewhat just by the streamlining of that aspect. I'm meeting with her next week to get my review fully up to mid-June. I think that's it.
Who has the social?
Yeah, I'm so with that.
Me.
What's that?
Oh, okay.
I don't have the report. I can tell you how much she's taken in, $3.
Did you go to the, did you go to the,
Grievance day?
grievance day? It's the only thing you have to do with
I would've gone.
it.
Poor assessors, like the poor forgotten stepchild. All
He's very
right, well,
efficient at what he does.
He is.
I think we've
He
all
just
been
goes and
liaison
does
at one
it.
point or another.
Just bounce them around.
We'll get him eventually. Yeah, he's good, he's efficient, and we all get our little.
and
updates,
shared
so.
with everyone else.
Yeah.
All right, so what's next, Ms. Metzger?
Well,
Okay, well,
they did have the grievance day.
how did it go? A lot of grievances.
Now, you didn't have
I
to-
can tell you, last year's grievance day, there was one, I
I think
think,
you
one
might have had,
grievance.
I don't know, you know, if he had one, that was a lot. I don't
Right.
know if he had, you know, Mandy, I think maybe one. I think he started out with 3, maybe ended with 1 at the end.
He's so good at figuring that out.
When I saw them, they were all chit-chatting together, so.
There was no screaming?
And that's part of how he
Well,
does
then,
it.
okay, it was a
is
successful grievance day.
When people contact him, he begins dialogue and is able to wrap up most of it.
I'm sure he'll tell us at our department head meeting, but I didn't get the details from him.
Okay, I can belatedly. Just so for the financials, the youth department took in $4,385. Assessor took in $3. Rec commission took in $4,052.36. Rec department, I should say. And the police took in $20. So let's see, news on our dog kennel front. I passed the ag and markets annual inspection. The inspector's notes say, kennel looks good. It sums it up very simply. And we've increased the deputy's hours so she can come to the kennel, help more at the kennel on a daily basis. And we're also going to be preparing some materials to let people know, just to get it out, the word out, and more aggressively about the dogs that we have up for adoption. We want to start a Facebook page for those dogs, and also just put flyers out around. And if any of you would be interested in adopting the dogs, we have 3 lovely dogs at our kennel. So very sweet dogs. So yeah, so that's that report.
Thanks for trying.
I'm sure you could take 2, 3 dogs, right? Okay, the youth commission, our new youth director, Matt McCluskey, is now firmly in the new seat. His first day of work was Monday, which was the same day that the youth commission met, so he got to do it all in one day. But it was a good meeting. It was a lightly attended meeting, but it was a good meeting. Camp enrollment is proceeding apace. They passed their inspection for camp. And we discussed a couple of some summer ideas, summer programming ideas, including possibly summer films and maybe summer campfires we're going to look into as well. You know.
Fires.
Yes, looking very contained.
You're being a coffee.
Right, absolutely, right. We've got plenty of fire marshals. We'll make sure it's fully reviewed. But anyway, it's a nice idea. Camp kids and their families could come in the evenings for our program. Let's see. The car show was great. I don't know if, I think a few of you were able to make it over there. It went really well. There was a great turnout of old and new cars. And they raised, it was, if you recall, it was co-organized, co-sponsored with the Lions Club. So they raised $1,700 in total, which will be split between the youth department and the Lions Club. So that was great. Rec Commission. The Rec Commission has presentation from representatives of the swim team. They were there, Ron Nacarado and Millie Winrow came to basically talk about the hardships that they've been facing since they haven't had a pool for these years. Their enrollment has dropped in half, and they would have a hard time being able to pay the proposed $1,500 lifeguard fee that the commission proposed. So the Rec Commission chair had recommended for the swim team to a weekly rate of $300 for, these are 4 3-hour practice sessions per week. And I'm thinking it's June now, so.
Sounds like it's still gonna be around $1,500, so it would be the point.
Well, it wasn't clear when the pool opened, so it actually could be less depending on when the pool opens and their swim team schedule, you know, they end basically
How
in
did
July.
the swim team receive this recommendation?
Hmm?
And did the swim team accept this recommendation?
Yes, they accepted it, and the Rec Commission adopted that recommendation. So perhaps we should move a motion tonight.
Okay.
If I might ask, how many lifeguards are on duty for those 3-hour practices?
They have one lifeguard.
No,
It
there's
must
more
be
than
more
that.
than that.
No,
It must
because
be at
there's
least
more than
2.
one thing going on at the same time. Swim team is practicing, and they still have they have swim lessons, and they have, Brookside is there, so it's a combination. I think it's gonna depend on, she's gonna have to schedule depending on how many people are at the pool during those times, so I'm not sure how many she's got.
Okay.
Do you know,
No, let me look
Bree,
at it.
if anything was discussed about the number of lifeguards for the morning session?
I recall that they said they only needed one
That's what I
for
was
their
told.
activity.
Just for them, but
Right.
you have two
We
different things going.
need our own
We need it for
lifeguards
the others.
anyway.
Right.
Well, there still are lifeguards, that's the way you gotta remember it.
Yeah,
The
but
lifeguards are
as
working for the
far
pool.
as an extra lifeguard for their purposes,
Right.
just
Sure.
one.
Just one.
So 4 times a week, how long is each session?
3 hours.
3 hours.
12 hours for $300, that's an expensive lifeguard.
I don't know what, I don't know what exactly was,
Well,
I'm not sure.
It had originally.
I think what we did was we calculated the cost at the going rate per hour for
That's
the
probably
lifeguard.
what
And that's how we came up with
I
that
see.
figure.
Right, but
So.
probably for both lifeguards.
I think it's for two,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then it probably is for two.
because I also know, well, the other thing is the town is helping them with, cost of the coaches too. Because we apply for a grant and get grant money from them to pay for the cap, for cost of coaches for the summer. And we've been doing that for the whole time that we haven't had the pool too.
So the town is reimbursed for
that's money that we could be putting towards another youth program, but it's going to them. So, that's the one-time grant they get every year. So, I think they get assistance from the town, just saying, still have the money.
Well, the way the rec commission had left it was that this is for this year, and seemed reasonable to me, especially given that we don't know exactly when the pool's open, and their season is a pretty short season. So why don't I go ahead and make a motion to accept the rec commission's recommendation for charging a weekly rate of $300 for 4 3-hour practices per week to Rosen.
Two jobs.
I think for 4 3-hour practices.
Do you know how many kids are left in the program?
They
60.
said their enrollment's down to 60. When the pool becomes available. Oh, did I mention that that charge was to the Rosendale Rapids swim team?
I'll second that. Did you add as recommended by the rec commission?
Yes. Roll call, Councilman Hughes,
Yes.
Councilwoman Metzger,
Yes.
Councilman Kozlowski,
Yes.
Councilwoman McCarty,
Yes.
Supervisor Walsh.
Yes.
They also, they're, there was discussion of the bocce courts, and the chair is going to contact them about the site plan and materials and timing and all of that. And then they'll bring it to back to the rec commission meeting to review. Let's see, what else? And they began talking about uses of the Creek Blocks property, but it was so late at that point that they tabled it pretty much to finish that discussion later. That was about it.
Okay. Is that it for your report?
Yes.
I was reminded of one thing.
Oh, sure.
The Environmental Commission had voted to not meet in June or December, so their next meeting will be July 21st,
Okay.
Thursday, July 21st.
Did you
Happy
put that,
month wasn't there.
mark that as they're canceling their meeting for June?
That's summer Christmas.
Yeah, half Christmas.
Also, I wanted to mention the planning board meeting is tomorrow night in this building, this room at 7 o'clock.
Making my notes messy now.
We're gonna go back and forth. So, I don't think it's really necessary for me to read all these, but, we have the super bookkeeper in.
Oh, yes.
And she's done a update and corrections on the past 4 months, reports. Mandy, I'm gonna get these to you tomorrow, because I wanted to make copies of all this, this is like original. And get those updated with and, I'll just read it today.
Those are useful to me.
Yeah, she didn't give me that because, I'm gonna read it a little differently today. Because I've got some balances that aren't disbursements haven't been made in some of them, so it's more, I figured it'd be better if I just read what the balances are in each one. So, just don't have my notes on. The checkbook for the general fund is $1,416,183.47. $785,954.50 of that is tax warrant that needs to be dispersed to highway, water, and sewer. So that leaves a remainder left in general fund of $630,228.97.
So you want to keep all
I'm gonna give it to you tomorrow, so I
Okay.
can just make copies and everything, I'll do it with you tomorrow. And in the sewer district, there is $10,924.02 still owed for the tax warrant. $53,729.96 in the account right now, which leaves $64,653.98. In the water district, $16,725.85 due from the tax warrant. $55,431.82 in the account, which leaves a balance of $72,157.67. In the highway, there is a checkbook balance of $134,555.86. Monies owed for the tax warrant are $751,702, which leaves a balance of $886,257.86. We have some additional temporary help for the summer. A motion to hire Julia Soul as temporary lifeguard at $9.50 per hour for no more than 40 hours per week, effective 7/1/16.
I'll second that.
Roll vote, Councilman Hughes.
Yes.
Councilman Metzger.
Yes.
Councilman Kozlowski.
Yes.
Councilman McBride.
Yes.
Supervisor Walsh.
Yes. A motion to hire Levi Kennedy as temporary lifeguard at $10 per hour for no more than 40 hours per week, effective 7/1/16.
Second that.
Roll vote, Councilman Hughes.
Yes.
Councilman Metzger.
Yes.
Councilman Kozlowski.
Yes.
Councilman McBride.
Yes.
Supervisor Walsh.
Yes. Motion to hire Robert Cassiatino as temporary lifeguard at $11 per hour for no more than 40 hours per week, effective 7/1/16.
I'll second.
Roll vote, Councilman Hughes.
Yes.
Councilman Metzger.
Yes.
Councilman Kozlowski.
Yes.
Councilman McBride.
Yes.
Supervisor Walsh.
Yes, all right, I'm gonna combine them now.
Good idea.
A motion to hire Finnegan Austin, Matthew Bay, Anya McRae, and Josh Horitz as laborers for $9 per hour. No more than 40 hours per week.
I'll second.
Let me amend that to a temporary summer help.
Those three for $9.
Yes, those four.
Four.
Finnegan Austin, Matthew Bay, Anya McRae, and Joshua Horitz.
Roll vote, Councilman Hughes.
Yes.
Councilman Metzger.
Yes.
Councilman Kozlowski.
Yes.
Councilman McBride.
Yes.
Supervisor Walsh.
Yes. Motion to hire Joseph Gelwaller, Keith Hoteling, Ilithiel McRae as laborer for $9.25 per hour, no more than 40 hours per week for the summer.
I'll second that.
Roll vote, Councilman Hughes.
Yes.
Councilman Metzger.
Yes.
Councilman Kozlowski.
Yes.
Councilman McBride.
Yes.
Supervisor Walsh.
Yes. Motion to hire Gabby Caramanos as temporary lifeguard for $10 per hour for no more than 40 hours per week, effective 7/1/16. Second that?
Roll vote, Councilman Hughes.
Yes.
Councilman Metzger.
Yes.
Councilman Kozlowski.
Yes.
Councilman McBride.
Yes.
Supervisor Walsh.
Yes. Motion to hire Devin Glassbach as temporary lifeguard at $10 per hour for no more than 40 hours per week, effective 7/1/16.
I'll second.
Roll vote, Councilman Hughes.
Yes.
Councilman Metzger.
Yes.
Councilman Kozlowski.
Yes.
Councilman McBride.
Yes.
Supervisor Walsh.
Yes. And last but not least, motion to hire Mikey Hahn as cashier for $9 per hour for no more than 40 hours per week, effective 7/1/16.
Second.
already said it.
Remember this application of his?
Stacy seconded.
Oh,
Gabby?
Who?
Yes.
Which one? There's no yellow.
Oh,
Typed in here.
I don't know, Sarah put it in, that's her recommendation.
It's all
What's
good.
that?
I mean,
What's the
Cashier.
there's no information whatsoever except his demographics. So with Sarah interviewed him, it's all
She'll,
good.
yeah, she'll get it to you.
Is he listed his name as Mickey? Mikey?
Mike.
Okay.
But all of his pertinent information is there, I'm just pointing out that his application is blank. All right.
Well, he's got it filled out, graduation, high school,
Okay.
description of experience.
Right. Well,
Probably his first job.
Yeah, it shows that he's.
Not a long resume there.
okay.
So, did we finish that one? A
Yeah.
motion to accept the resignation of Carol St. Rose from the Water and Sewer Commission with regrets.
with regret, I second that.
Roll call, Councilman Hughes?
Yes.
Councilwoman Metzger?
Yes, with regret.
Councilman Priscillowski?
Yes, with regret.
Councilwoman Lepari?
Yes.
Supervisor Walsh?
Yes.
It's a very nice letter she sent. Yes, sir, I saw that happening today.
She's moving out to.
Right, and with that motion accepted of her resignation, Carol St. Rose's resignation from the Water and Sewer Commission, there would be an opening on the Water and Sewer Commission. Did you get any applications for that?
I think we had one on file.
Wow.
We've had one on file for a while,
Yeah.
right? We have an open.
I'm sure they're still living in town.
Go back and check on that, maybe do it, see if it's something to dust off.
Good to get to quickly so that we can meet a quorum.
Yeah. If not, I mean, people can still apply, you know, other people. So, first on the agenda is site plan review for Tilson School. Mr. Mike Moriarty would like to speak. You guys should have gotten a document from Dave Plant from Berkman, and after the reports were referenced.
Yes, Supervisor and board members, I'm not going to take much time tonight, but I did want to give you just a progress report. We did have a conference call today, myself and George Fakiris with Dennis Larios, and we read everything that Dave put in here about water quality volume and the treatment, testing associated with that, and we're going to undertake all of those tests during the period of the next probably several weeks. We're going to hire, looks like we'll probably, Dennis is going to talk to a couple of different hydrogeologists, but it looks like we'll probably work with Bob Miller, who I know the board is familiar with. I've used him on several projects here in town. He's a very good hydrogeologist. That's really, it looks like from what Dave wrote, kind of the last of the issues for us to address, at least substantively from a seeker standpoint. As you know, we've submitted quite a bit of documentation, an address of the questions that were brought up in public hearings, and I do agree with Dave that it'll be a better record if we do this testing as part of the seeker review.
Right, you're done first.
And that's really all I was gonna say, unless the board has questions, but we're just really gonna, I said on my way into Jen that I'm just gonna get Dennis, Dennis is gonna do it. So, that's really where we're at.
There was one other question that I noted, and the tone of our planner's comment was that this just seemed like a formality, but it was a concern regarding where the wetland did or didn't appear. on
Yeah,
the
I have a note also, good, thanks for bringing that up. I have a note here, I'm gonna get in touch with Steve George from North Country Ecological Service tomorrow and get Steve to give us some pictures or, diagrams, something for Dave to look at. We're not in the wetland or near the wetland that's there, but it'll be good to have that for the record.
And that was what our planner said as well, just has to have that happen.
Oh, yeah, it's a long, long way from us. But we'll get something in the record for Dave, even if, I don't know if Steve has pictures, but if he doesn't have pictures, I'll have him, write something and, let him know, so. Okay?
Thank you.
Very good. We'll see you when we get our work done.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next on the agenda was a site plan application from the Green Garden Cafe.
Garden house.
Yeah.
This is Green
Oh,
Garden
right.
Cafe.
That's the LLC.
You can't get in.
Nope,
That's the
Green
LLC.
Garden Cafe, that's the LLC, that's the official legal entity.
So, you all came before us, I would say, was that in May?
Yep.
May
I think so.
to talk about wanting to do music and had events at his location on Main Street. And at that time, he had some questions about code, and Mary Lou had spoke to him a little bit at the meeting about the code, and we had recommended coming back in to look at your site plan for
Right.
planning board. And if you were having events, we said we had this event application. So after looking at the event application, I asked Mary Lou to look at your application, and we have basically a legal comment from her. And should I just read this, or do you want to speak on it? With the letter
Either way,
here?
you can read it if you'd
Yeah.
like to.
So it appears that this application has been put on the form for Code Chapter 45 mass gathering events. Mass gathering permits are for gatherings of 1,000 people or more. The application submitted is for 30 to 50 people. Additionally, even if this was the proper permit, application is incomplete in several ways. The application does not contain times, there is no certificate of insurance, there's no sign-off by the police chief. Application was submitted less than 30 days prior to the first listed event date. Now, that being said, I know there's been some activity down there having music, and you and I spoke about, if you want to have music at that venue, really don't have an objection to that, but it was about keeping it at a level that was below the decibels that are required. And I know that you've had lots of complaints from the neighbors, and the police have been there to address some of that. In the meantime, it looks to me like several visits from police came to ask you to turn the music down, and at some point, our chief wrote a letter asking you to not, at this time, to cease outdoor music presentations and amplifications. And then, you put the application in, but at this point, I feel like, we really can't move forward on this because the police chief has asked you not to do it. And,
You tell me when it's time for me to comment on that.
yep. And then the other thing I would say is that, if the event was happening as an event that's going on throughout the whole community, which I know that the Fourth Friday has been, might be considered as an event as a mass gathering if it was an event that was put on by the businesses as a group. But then if some of that would have to be addressed as insurance and some of the other things. But it still would mean you can't play your music to the level that was causing a disturbance to the neighbors, because, this has been, a problem. I think other people are having music and not having so much of a complaint. So I don't know, you're welcome to speak, obviously.
Okay. First, to the attorney, as I had submitted the application and asked if there's anything needed, being that it's on my premises, it's nothing to do with the police department. It is an event because it's a Fourth Friday and it's not mass gathering. What I applied for was Fourth Friday date and time is mentioned, it's for Friday, as it is. In regard to the police coming, let me state for the record, the town of Rosendale does not have a functional decibel reader meter. I am in no violation whatsoever. I resent the fact that I got a letter from the chief. I resent the fact that they came down with a defective decibel meter. I have no violation with the town of Rosendale. I'm in good standing with the town of Rosendale. There was a complaint, they came down. Nobody, it's not like a speeding ticket that can show me that I was going about the speed limit, and I would welcome a ticket if I violated the law.
Well, in here it says that the following is the Roseville Town Code as it relates to noise, section 47-6, prohibited noises. The following noises shall be prohibited. 1, radio, phonograph, or musical instrument, the operation of any radio, phonograph, loudspeaker, or use of any musical instrument in such a manner or with such volume as to annoy or disturb the quiet, comfort, or repose of persons in any dwelling, apartment, or other type of residence. And also, it says annoying sounds, creation of any noise which causes public inconvenience, annoyance, or alarm, or disturbs the public peace, comfort, or tranquility. So even without a decibel meter,
As explained
It's
by
still-
the attorney, the be-all of all that is the 65 decibels.
The attorney did not explain that at all, but I just want to say, if there's an investigation going on with the police department, I'm not going to comment on that. If, you know, the police department has an investigation.
I would not call it investigation, but I
Or,
would just say,
well, they have complaints, they've sent a letter out.
they sent a letter.
And before they sent that letter, they did consult with me. So I did see that letter before it went out, and I agree with that letter.
Okay.
If I am in violation, I would like to be issued a ticket and appear in court.
I'm sure they'd probably be happy to do that, but that's their call, not
All I can
mine.
say is at this time, it appears to be a police matter. So it's the police department that you need to work this out with at this point, because, you know, it's been, a letter's been written, and it would not be appropriate for this town board, I believe, to override the police department's
A
decision.
letter
It's a
written
police-
citing that I violated, which I did not. If I had violated it, I would like to appear in court.
Well, as I said, that's not something that the town board has authority over. That's
Mhm.
something that you would have to talk to the police department
I
about.
had spoken to the police department. I met with the sergeant, and he said if there was a complaint, they will come and investigate. In addition to that, he had told me that dysfunctional decibel reader has been sent to be repaired.
It has been repaired, my understanding, since then.
And just for the record, I want to say when a single member of this group is talking, we are violating town code right now. We over 65 decibels. So I suggest strongly that the legal department of the town looks into that, because it's void and null, because it's unattainable at any place, at any time, in this town, in its entirety. Not even in the middle of the park, 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, but that's not the level that you were speaking at, or that's not the level of the music that you were doing.
A
So-
violation is a violation. If it's above
So,
65, it's
so
above
if you want
65.
us to leave it at that, we will.
But they're also not getting complaints for the noise that this is disrupting people's downtime and their quiet time, which is where the issue lies.
The issue lies selectively
the
because
letter.
we have 2 other businesses that starts music after midnight.
Well,
After midnight.
there's also a reality of the fact that most of the complaints are coming from people that have some sort of personal vendetta with Mr. Sturr. And that it's also complemented with all of the sudden smoke violations where they're referring to his business with the name Smoky Joe's. And he's had the business open for 3 years.
So wait a minute,
And
none
now,
of that's been discussed here,
No,
or none of those
what-
complaints, I haven't seen any
but I would
complaint
like to
that.
see
I've never
complaints
seen any
It's all over
complaint
the
about that.
internet. My
It's in-
business
well,
has went down
it's in this
50%
letter right
because of
here
those complaints.
from Estelle.
Okay.
That he's adding the Smoky Joe's insinuation, which is the same language that Elizabeth is using. And yes, it's too loud, and it needs to be rectified about the loudness. But there's also a difference between when someone is being harassed to do something about their business, and someone is being in violation, and then what's gonna happen is that then almost all businesses in town won't be able to have any music unless it's one acoustic guitar, because 65 decibels.
I had the cops called at 8:20 for one acoustic guitar in my yard, just to make a point. One acoustic guitar, no amplification, 8:20.
And that's cited here.
That's not what I was told by the police department. They said you had 7-piece brass band.
That was
and
last
amp-
year.
Yeah, that was
That was
later in the
different.
evening.
That was last year.
So this was
Was
the
one on the
same
30th
evening.
acoustic?
What was it
Earlier
this-
at
what was it
8:30.
I don't wanna,
This-
I
this
don't
is
wanna
the only
reference
time that I
this
have music
on
this
the
year
site. I
was,
gave those to
sole
you guys 'cause
purpose.
I got it,
Right.
but that's
Say
not
it.
what
Last-
I'm
last,
not basing, the
Friday.
comments I'm making are not based on that.
Sole purpose was
And
their
also
last
I
meeting.
talked to
We
the
should
Officer
know.
did come later,
Yeah.
it was much louder.
I'm just trying to clarify what the music was.
This year,
The-
since the beginning of the season, there was only one event. There was sole purpose, there was misscheduled because I did tell the sergeant that it will be for Friday, beginning in June, and going July, August, September, as the fourth Friday is. I had received multiple calls because sole purpose had put it on their website from my chef at the restaurant, do we have music tonight? And I said, we do not. It only starts in June. And I showed up in the restaurant while they were setting up in the yard. And I asked him to pick it down. We ceased the music at exactly 10 o'clock when they came in, with no ability to prove that I'm violating anything. Complaints by the same regular complainers. And I stopped the music at 10 o'clock, started ordinance told it to go down to 45 decibels.
There-
With
there's
no
this-
argument with officers, and that's what their suggestion for me to come in front of the board and put an application for an event, not mass gathering, not site plan. And the complaints encompasses within them discussions in the yard, just people talking. It's in Chief Perry letter to me, that those were the complaints that come in.
There's a bit of a gray area in the decibel versus, I mean, there's so many lines in the code about how quiet a town we have to be.
It's also
Which-
very subjective.
It's very subjective, but it's also, it would be very hard for anybody to comply with this, even with a backyard barbecue.
If your dog barks too much and somebody doesn't like a barking dog, that's disturbing, that's creating an annoyance. And you can get a run up for that
Right.
as well.
Also, it's every
So to
truck.
me, it's a matter of degree and reasonableness to fit the neighborhood. I think ultimately that's what it's gotta come down to.
I had spoken to the neighbors, some of them said, wait, I'm opening the window wider and I'm coming
Right.
down to dance.
Sure.
The 3 complaints that I'm aware of, that 2 of them unsolvable, which will be my neighbor to the left and the baker across the street, said with the new baby, I'd spoken to them and I said, all you gotta say is, baby's sleeping, it will stop right there. And they are in agreement with that, and she said to me, if it's not after 10 o'clock at night, I don't care, do whatever you really want to do. I do not want to go and sign petitions and add going door to door. It's not who I am. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to come and enjoy. And when the cops did show up and they said, stop it, it's 10 o'clock, we did.
Right.
Yvonne, just wanted to clarify, so you're looking to have music on the 4 nights, that's what's in your application?
That particular music, it was for those 4 Fridays because it seems to be a bigger celebration in the
But
town of Rosendale.
But you've had more than one before the fourth Friday, because I know that there's been more than one call on a Friday night since you came to see us. Been more than one Friday
Only
night.
one time we music this year.
I don't think so.
Yes.
I
You
thought-
had the Seder.
I thought
The
that.
Passover Seder.
I had a Passover Seder, my religious holiday.
After Seder, there's been 2 events.
They called, but there was no music.
There
There was no music in
Seder
town when they
whatsoever.
called.
We sang, this is my
I'm
religion.
not talking about your Seder. I
That's the
know
only
that-
time the cops showed up.
Okay, because I
That's
had
it.
2 complaints, and I talked to the police on 2 occasions where they said they went down there since after your Seder.
No.
Well, one was sole purpose, right, which you had already described, so.
That was,
Sole purpose was one.
One. And the other
one
was?
before that was the May 23rd, which was my religious holiday, was my Seder. That's the only time that the cops were down
May
there.
Right.
29th.
Right.
That's-
May 29th was when?
Fourth Friday.
Fourth Friday, probably. Yeah, we were on the 6th of April. That was the only, that was the only music public event.
But, so it's a particular kind of music that you want those nights, but you still want to play music the other night?
I
Is
can
that what-
adjust, and I can tell them to play in a more quiet manner. They're known for what it is, and you can see there's people dancing. But I can work with that if this is within it, but it's hard to work with when the guidelines are telling you you cannot even breathe in the street. That's where it's hard.
Right, so-
65 is not reasonable, but that's a bigger project for the town itself to deal with as what we need to do as a town. I have no problem booking something else up, but this is 4th Friday, we're staying open up late, And we want to do that. Just to go back, you mentioned that the police have been there 2 times. The police have been there in my religious holiday. That's the only time that they came in at 8:20 because they complained directly from Elizabeth next door to me, and the baker complained about it, and guest of theirs that stayed up at 8:50. And then you can see as a board that you have received multiple calls to the meeting afterwards.
I also heard calls from the people across the street and a recommendation, and that they felt that they weren't cooperating with them when they asked you to turn it down. And they said that when you asked them to play acoustic music rather than amplified music, you said call the police. So it doesn't sound like you were trying to work out, here's the one person you said wasn't really a problem. That's not what they're telling me. They're telling me that you.
It could be that they will tell you one thing and they will tell me another thing, but
Just tell me what
nevertheless,
they
they come to my place twice a week. As to the Seder that I had in there, this is my religious holiday. The town does not want to get into religious practices and what I'm allowed and not allowed to do. But as far as a violation possibly to the music, if you're telling me you can have music until 10 o'clock at night, but make sure that it's reasonable and it doesn't disturb, I can work with it and I can have non-7-piece orchestra or band or whatever coming up into that thing. But I
The
don't.
amplification was a problem.
What were you gonna say, Lee?
Sorry.
No, I can work with that. I can cancel the contract that I have with them to where it is, but it's really a choice that I have. It's hard for me to work with it because I've been called on with non-amplification, single acoustic guitar playing classical music. So where am I going in between in there knowing that,
Well,
that I
That's not
can't?
what I would like to clarify that with the police department, because that's not what I was told. I was told you had amplification. So I don't know why I'm hearing a different story now, so.
And amplification for
On your music, when the call came through that
the
it was
music and
amplified.
amplification with 7-piece
Okay.
band. They come with their own amplifiers and everything. They
And
come
the
also
other
with.
complaint, and you know what, this is a question I'm asking you, Mike, is the music loud enough that people are not able to hear their own television or function inside? Because that's really what it comes down to. I think everybody living or working on Main Street expects that there's gonna be some, music or noise or, activities going on. But is it so loud that they can't turn their own television on? Because that's the complaints that I'm getting. And I also heard, and you can tell me whether this is true or not, that the theater had to adjust their times to accommodate the noise level from the music. So if they can't hear the show that's going on in the theater 2 doors over, I would personally say that's not about 65, or, it's not about the decibels that you're talking about, it's about the music. To me, that's an unreasonable noise level, to be
It
able
was
to
a
not.
4th Friday. The theater had shown a movie. There was only one incident that I sat with the board and we figured it out, and that's why we're starting a little later, and they choosing in their programming. It was a very heavy movie that they showed in there with a lot of silence in it, and yes, it did interfere with that thing, but we worked it out.
So I understand, you're
Yeah.
working it out with the theater, but we're saying it has to be worked out as a community. Because if you are making noise so loud that the theater 2 doors down can't play their show, then to me, then everyone around you, whether they're reasonable, or they have a vendetta, or whatever it is, I'm sure there's other people that are being disturbed by that level of music if they can't hear themselves in their own home. If you can hear 2 doors down that the music is too loud to hear the theater, I would say that it's probably loud enough that it's a disturbance to the people in their homes.
I disagree.
So
I
okay.
disagree because the theater was one incident that was worked out.
Okay.
And it was last year.
Right.
It
so
was
that-
actually worked probably 2 years ago.
But it doesn't, that's not the point. The point is that if what Yuval thinks is a reasonable level is it a reasonable level? Because, when you had the brass band playing on Main Street, you guys are asked to play back in the park, which still, everybody can hear the music and it's still going on, but it's not right underneath their windows or so loud that it's a disturbance. And I think that, it's a similar kind of situation there.
Well, I have a question, like, we're supposed to play for Asbury Shorts on Saturday.
What's
And
Asbury Shorts?
It's a film festival at the theater. We played it last year, and we stand in front of the theater
And how long do you play for?
about a half hour. But according to our code, anybody who doesn't like it or could shut down pretty much any kind of music
But
in town.
the thing is that code is in place because there's other noises that people do that could be a disturbance, not just music. So we historically have not really had a problem with your band playing or some of the others. You know, once in a while you get a complaint, it's not a complaint that becomes an issue where everybody is saying this is unmanageable. This is becoming something where it feels like we have to make some changes because it's not manageable at this point. And, you know, the band is loud, it can make music, but it's not amplified music also. So I think there's a difference there. But I
Not
don't know, you have
according
some-
to
I
the
think-
code.
I'd like to ask John to weigh in on this, because you do understand music better than some of us, since you are a musician and do use that equipment, and maybe you have an understanding of a little bit better than I do about.
Sure,
how-
thanks. Back to what you were both saying, I mean, and what everybody's kind of getting at, is the code is a little ridiculous for downtown, a lively downtown center. It's not. So that's a long-term goal, to massage the code back to a reasonable place. Another workaround would be to have Fourth Fridays be more sanctioned. Maybe we were talking about with the Chamber of Commerce along with Main Street Association, and create some kind of actionable plan where we can agree community-wide that that's going to be a more boisterous night, right? It sounds like
It always
you're
has had that
willing to tailor the music accordingly to, I mean, you've made, stated that you're going to be reasonable, willing to be reasonable to bring the level down.
Absolutely,
Now,
absolutely. Yeah.
speaking as a sound production guy, a big aspect of that is the bass, electric bass.
Mhm.
And then another aspect of it is the size of the band, and the bass will rattle your windows six doors down,
Mhm.
and it'll drive people insane. Also, if it's kind of an amateur band, they turn up, that person turns up, they keep turning up louder and louder. A really professional band of really great players can go down to a whisper. And that's suiting the size of that lot. You could have a fantastic band and a great dance program with a small sound. It can be done. I know how to do it. It can be done.
And
I would invite you
thing
to
is-
give me a professional advice as to how to lay it down in the yard.
I'd be happy
But
to
if
come
it's all
forward.
falling down under the 65 decibels,
So-
and the
Right,
point
the
that
other,
I
one more
made,
thing about this I just wanted to say was, certain neighbors are sensitized to the point where they're kind of so far on the spectrum of tolerable that we will never make it work for everybody.
Right, but right now, I understand there's a neighborhood situation going on here. I do feel like if there'd been a little bit more, working together would never become a complaint. If people just said, look, can you turn it down? It doesn't feel like that was happening. I understand that, you want to have a business and your business needs to do things. But the other thing that we didn't get to is that Mary Lou also recommended that, the other option is for you to go back to the planning board and have it be part of your site plan, that you want to have music, so it can be, part
it
of
will
your site
fall
plan.
under the decibels.
Right, yes.
Yeah, so it comes down to that,
Yeah, the law right now is what it is,
it is.
Right.
and that's what you have to work with.
Right.
And I'm hearing some good suggestions as how you may want to change that to look at this. I think Sean had a very good point with the downtown center and, and
Yeah.
now I know about Fourth Friday and I'm sure I'll be joining. It's a cool idea, but
Yes,
maybe
right.
you want to do something, somebody should put in an
Right.
event.
Right.
Application
So-
is event,
But
together.
right now, you have what you have. We can work on something new.
But
if you
even
want
what we
to.
have is kind of spongy. It's subjective.
The code.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the
But you
code,
could say the same thing when we have the street festival or some of
Right.
the other things, there are events that happen, and people are prepared for it and say, okay, there's gonna be an event, and this is what's gonna happen.
Right.
There's gonna be a parade on Memorial
Right.
Day, there's gonna be, so those things
So,
happen.
I,
But, we have to.
If Fourth Friday were more,
Yeah, but I do think, you have to be a little bit more aware of the location John was talking about, A lot of the other music venues are inside, or they're, behind their buildings. It makes a little bit difference in the noise level. You have like a natural kind of amplification in that location, which means that maybe the music has to be even